It says there's a stream interrupted, but you know what? I seem to have been making a stream that was pretty good below and before. Let me see. Come on, people now. Smile on your brother. All right, so we're just gonna chill. I'll eventually edit all these off, but we're just gonna try. So I had a pretty good stream, and then it was doing really well, loads of interaction, and then it decided to temperature out, which means it got too hot. That's what happens in 96-degree weather. Although there's like really nasty cloud cover, not nasty, it's actually pretty good. But it's keeping it hot and muggy. So I'm just gonna wait. Usually I don't do this, but you know what? It's all good. If nobody comes in for a couple minutes, we'll just erase it. Let me see here. All right, one more minute. We'll see if anybody pops on. Ah, there we go. All right, let's see if anybody's back here. Everybody back in the room? Sorry about that. That was just, it was so hot out, and then I had it all charging, and you know how that goes. So we had to change up the room a little bit here. So just waiting to see who's on, and then we will continue on. Because we were talking about the 3 levels of faith, right? And what we didn't get to is the opposite of faith, okay? Because most people sit pretty well in the opposite of faith because we've been taught to do that. And if faith is the artisan and the practitioner, then a lack of faith is the person who is just educated and doesn't use that information, right? That's so, you know, Amir, what's up? De Silva, what's up? Happy day. How's everybody doing today? Let me know what you're doing today. What's going on? Right, tap that screen if you can. We're gonna talk about some manifestation stuff, but the science of it, right? We're gonna talk about that. We had actually a really good video, and then the temperature kind of, my phone temperatured out. So you know what I'm saying? So what's up, Petra? Juanitas, what's up? Hola. Right? So, I want to talk to you about what does it mean? What does it take to manifest? What does it mean to create? But to do that, we have to fully grasp how we've been programmed, how we have been taught to think. And when I say this, I'm talking about your childhood, but not just that, our society, our social groups, our church groups. And, you know, part of my training is in sociology, which means I study how societies work, right? And so when you're understanding that, like, oh, there's an ideology, or which means a set of ideas that we've accepted that are normal, and please, if you're here, just go ahead and tap like, because that helps it get it out to other people. Like the, you know, the thumbs up stuff. Thank you, by the way. And then passages when, like, and most people think of ancient cultures or like tribal like cultures, which is really easy go-tos, like Sparta, right? Like Spartan, like this is Sparta, you know, the movie 300, right? And they would send their boys out, and even the kind of like mythology of how Rome started and how they sent Romulus and Remus out, and you know they had to come back with like a dead animal, and whoever did would be like the founder of Rome, but they had to go and prove themselves, right? They had to go and prove themselves by jumping through these social hoops. And so, you know, it's social pressure. Oh, thank you. And so loads of social pressure, right? Loads of social pressure around who you're meant to be. Loads of social pressure of what's acceptable. So if you can press the thumbs up, that would be awesome. You're awesome. So again, rites of passage is how we learn, right? At least the ancient world. The problem is we still do that. Oh, you got to grow up and be a good child. Oh, you got to grow up and do this. Oh, you got to grow up and be that way. Hello, Mohammed, right? And so rites of passage aren't the same as, oh, I need to go kill an animal and bring it back to the tribe. Today, we still have rites of passage. It's, hey, if you're a good kid, then hey, you should do this. Or hey, if you're part of this religious group, you should follow all these rules. Hello, 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 Bakio, what's up? Welcome from Czech. Hey, you know, I was actually in Europe. I was in Europe recently. We wanted to go to Czech Republic, actually. We hope to go to the Eastern Bloc sometime. But yeah, that's awesome. Hello. So back to this idea of like rites of passage, right? And so rites of passage are these social rules that we create. So hey, for you to be smart, for example, you got to go to school, and then for you to go to school, you got to go through these tests, and you know, for when you go through these tests, you're tested, right? And then people judge you, and then what happens is you're judged, and then you're like, oh yes, you can go to college, or yes, you can go and work on cars, or yes, you can go and, you know, work on a house, or you could be a realtor, or you could be a doctor, right? And I'm not against those necessarily, because obviously you don't want your neighbor working on you that is not trained as a doctor. Can you imagine? Here's a dirty knife. Let's go ahead and open you up. Which basically was like ancient Egypt anyways. So, right, but the rite of passage is a very, very bad way of thinking when you're trying to understand manifestation. Because manifestation is a science, right? It's an art. Okay, even the work in the work of Neville, he says this is an art. This is something that you have to practice, right? And so you don't really need anything to manifest because you are manifesting. You're doing it now. You're manifesting tomorrow. You're manifesting tonight. You're going to manifest 5 years from now. You manifested 20 years ago. You manifested 7 years ago. You manifested 50 years from now, right? All of this, just manifestation means you're experiencing your beliefs. That's really, really a better way to understand what's happening, is that you are experiencing your beliefs. You are creating through your beliefs the life that you now live, right? Even down to the key ring that you bought yesterday, to the earrings you got last week, whatever it is, everything is predicated and built upon your belief system, okay? And that's what manifestation is. So what does it mean to even do that? Well, I just gave you that example, but you know, this idea of looking at manifestation as something that you earn is really bad. And there are loads of belief systems out there around manifestation and law of attraction and law of manifestation and Neville's work, where it's like, oh, you've got to earn this and you got to do this and you got to work hard and all this kind of stuff, right? And see, now here's the thing, right? So, Baku, right? So I actually disagree with that. Now, that doesn't mean that because you can point to it, it's true. Because you're like, well, look at my country, or look at the history of my country. That's just confirmation bias, right? So I can even explain to you through neuroscience why what you just said sounds true to you. And it even sounds logical. It even sounds like it would be logical not only to you, but to those around you. Maybe even to people who watch the news about the Czech Republic, like, right? And so you only get what you believe, right? So if you believe that, then you have to experience that. You're going to be compelled to only see those things. And it's actually referred to in neuroscience as activating your reticular activating system. It's telling your brain, hey, there's a belief here. Now I want you to use your eyes and go find why that's true, right? And so that's manifestation, right? You are full on waking up your brain to say, hey, this is a value system that I have, right? And this is what I experience. So therefore, right, that must be true. And all that is confirmation bias. So even in the work of Neville Goddard, he actually says, listen, one of the things, right, that you can do to get better at manifestation is to use selective hearing. But selective hearing is just another way of understanding that is confirmation bias. What he's saying is, when you're trying to manifest a house, look for reasons why that's already true of you being a house owner. If you're trying to manifest a person back in your life, then use confirmation bias. That's really what. So confirmation bias means you only look for things that make it so that you're correct and right and nothing else matters. You ignore every other piece of information. Now that's dangerous when you're just living in this world. You can't operate on confirmation bias every single day. But for manifestation, you can and you should, right? You should look for reasons why you're always right in terms of you getting what you desire. So if you want to, for example, my friend Shirabakul, right? If you want to try to find more peace and less war and find out that life is fun and life is adventurous and life is full of opportunities, then you have to start then retraining your mind and thoughts and emotions to actually only look for that, right? And so that's what this is about. That's what Neville Goddard's about. And so he says, you know, the only thing that you need to create in your life, manifest, right, is to really is use faith and belief. But I absolutely hate those words because they've been hijacked by religious groups, right? And they've been sorely misunderstood. And so I've been studying like languages and you know, kind of like ancient, you know, linguistic origins of words and stuff for about 10, 12 years. And so when you take this word, right, the like belief or whatever it is, you trace it back to ancient Egypt, right? And the word is very, very different to what we understand today. Okay, like it's very, very powerful. And so like the problem is that you have like religious groups who hijack and they're like, oh, you have to have faith, you have to believe, and you have to stack it, like you have to have enough. No, there's no such thing as enough, right? And so what it means is yes, and I can, yeah. So Amir, check out the power of awareness. And by the way, if you're looking for science-backed coaching, neuroscience-backed coaching, get in touch. I have packages. I have monthly payment plans that can help you out and hook you up, right? So get in touch for that. There's an email on my bio, or there's also a free Discord group that you can join, right? And so again, when you're looking out, AASQM is when you're looking at this and you're looking at manifestation as something that you need to earn, right? Then you've bought into this lie. I need to earn my parents' love. I need to earn my pastor's acceptance. I need to earn God's acceptance by not being sinful. I need to earn. Guess what? All you've done is you've created a life of earning. That's all you've done. You fundamentally created rites of passage that don't even exist. But here's the other thing about rites of passage, right? Is that rites of passage means that you are a piece of shit before you actually go through it, right? That means I have to go through this to feel worthy, right? So even other people say, well, you have to go through bad stuff as well while you're manifesting. No, you don't. Who said that, right? So why, right? Hello, Progato. Oh, Progato. Oh, man. You know, I really probably need your business. So thank you for the loving comments. I appreciate you. And so, but I'm probably pretty much going to ignore you from now on because I'm talking about something else. So what I would like to do is encourage you to think about what it is that you define as manifestation. What is it that you define as what it means to create in your life, right? So I would love for you to really get serious, right, about, okay, what it is that you believe about yourself and about others, okay? Because how you define that will determine how you experience your life. If you think that everything you have to do in life is about earning, you're going to create logical reasons why it makes sense to you and to even others, and even in this world, that's going to be like, well, yeah, but look at that person. They did that and it worked out for them, and so I need to do it that way. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, Neville shares loads of stories of people breaking conventional rules, right? And so you must be willing to break convention. And that means your own convention. That means you've accepted rules and programming that are limiting you, full stop. Like, I mean, that's just what it is, right? And so when Neville says that you need belief or faith, what you need to grasp is that with that word and the ancient linguistic origin of it, like ancient Egypt, right? And they use way less letters than the biblical esoteric authors did. But the word means artisan. The word means practitioner. It's a very beautiful term. And so when you're understanding that the only thing that you do need to manifest isn't the programming that it comes with this, right? You know, then that you need to, you don't need to have like so much faith. You don't need to have so much belief. But there's 3 levels to faith or belief, right? And so one is this: you're an artisan. But what does an artisan do every day? They get up and they create art. They grab the canvas and they create beautiful things. Now, did they start out that way? No. Guarantee you the first day, crappiest art you've ever seen in your whole life. Same with the first day for a violinist or a pianist, right? They're learning. And Neville even says this in his book, Picture Imaging, right? Image making. You learning. You're an artisan. You're a practitioner. So here's the thing. American educational system is really predicated, or really relies upon us defining education as something that you learn, and that's it. You don't practice it. So that's what a lack of faith is. So we think a lack of faith is, I don't believe in this. That has nothing to do with faithlessness. If you have no faith, it means I don't want to practice it. You don't want to practice it. That's what you're saying. So you don't want to practice it. You don't want to be the artist. You don't want to do anything. So these words, as in the actual Hebrew word is E-M-U-N-A-H, right? It literally means artist, or like artisan, practitioner, or creator. And the days that you're not doing that, that means you have no faith, right? And so that's what you're ultimately doing when you're creating the life that you want, right? Right, and so, I'm in Iran yet. Hey, welcome back, X. Appreciate you. Sorry, the phone overheated. But we have loads more people in this one, so this is awesome. So you're gonna hear some of the regurgitation here, X. But like basically, when you're trying to break down what it is, what I want to say is that if we know that faith are these 3 things, right? It's the emotions, but from the end. What does it feel like to be the person who already has the thing? That's what you focus on. That's level 1 for what faith or belief is. Level 2, enjoy the process. That's level 2. 3, you're the artist. You practice it every day. And this goes back to your initial question from the last video, X, right? That's how you become. These are the 3 ways in which you build faith, and that's how you become, right? So let's say, you want to be, a dancer, okay? Like Neville was, okay? Well then, 1, you don't need credentials. You may want them, but you don't need them. In this world, they may think that you need credentials, right? Because they think information equals authority. But really, Neville is saying you can give yourself that authority. And he says several times, don't go out asking for people to validate you, right? Stop doing that. You validate yourself in here, always. Never one time do you go out and ask for permission out there, right? It doesn't mean that when you're manifesting, it may not lead you to actually follow through on that process. But let that be natural. Don't be like, I've got to do this, and I've got to push the envelope, and I've got to keep, like, right? And so don't like you're about to drop a log, right? And pressure yourself. So when you're doing those 3 things on the ongoing, which means every single day you should be practicing. And like I shared in the last video, this is a process of waking up to who you are as the divine. But the more that you don't do this, the more that you are actually being faithless, right? So the more that you don't get up and do this, and you're like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this. You're already manifesting. So you could be tired and manifest, or tired and try to ignore that you're manifesting, but you're still manifesting. So you might as well try to be active about it, right? There's nothing wrong with being tired, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that you can't be actively involved in creating the life and day that you want, right? This is why some people can be tired and they seem to have endless stores of energy, right? Because they're using the law to give themselves that energy, right? And yeah, it may take you a day to get there, it may take you 2 weeks to get there, but keep practicing it even through your exhaustion, right? And so this is what he means when he says morning, noon, and night. It means don't give yourself an out. Don't give yourself an excuse. Don't give yourself reasons or what even seem to be logical in this system of the world, right? To be like, nah, I have so many reasons why I can't do this, right? No, give yourself reasons of why you do this. That's what he means by selective hearing. Look at the confirmation bias that fits within you already having your desire, whether it be energy, confidence, love, house, car, it doesn't matter, right? And so And again, like I said before, confirmation bias doesn't mean that you need to go and do that only in every single area of your life. Like there's too much confirmation bias today in areas that are not very helpful, right? And so I would encourage you to not think that way. But what I would do is I would encourage you to see this as a process. And being is a process. Faith is a process. Everything is a process in which you want to embrace, okay? And so, let me see your question. What's your question? Let's see, another question. When I just feel loved, I notice that it is way more effective than saying I am loved by blah. Is that part of the conditioning, the desire? So, okay, so there's two ways that, so let me just see here, hang on. All right, so, okay, sorry, let me go back to your question. Okay, so I'm loved by, is that part of not conditioning the, yeah, so, okay. So I honestly think every desire is a condition, every desire, and it will be a condition. It's just whether you're going to condition it towards you having it or towards you not having it, right? And so, because you're God, right? So you're God desiring conditions. Conditioning desires all the time. Whether they be good conditions or bad conditions, you're always conditioning it, right? There's no such thing as an unconditioned desire. Because to desire is a condition, right? And so there's nothing wrong with it, right? Because God's desiring. God, like that's the process of God waking up to being God. But where you're desiring it from matters even more so, right? And so when you're trying to, let's say, I want this person. Now, in scripture, as the esoteric, like as its mystical kind of like rules of the mind, it does say to condition it. It does actually, even Neville says, yeah, ask for $1 million, right? So it's not the conditioning, it's why is the conditioning so difficult, right? That's where you want to go to, because that means there's some sort of belief or childhood experience or whatever it is that has, I don't like to use the word trauma, but has conditioned you and your belief system, right? And has programmed it to the point where you think it's normal to think that way, more so than not, right? Does that make sense? And so then what's happened is you've created an avatar of yourself or a version of yourself or an identity that thinks that way of thinking is more normal than the new identity, which actually has what you want, right? And so, there is that meditative process that we've talked about before, right? Or yesterday, day before yesterday, right? Where you do decondition everything initially, and that's what Neville encourages you, right? That's the I am meditation. Edward Art Supply Hands has a great YouTube video about 10 minutes long on that meditation, a friend of mine. And then, so yes, condition it, but start with the process of deconditioning all your beliefs about it, right? So I think somebody asked like a few days ago, like, oh, why is it so hard to take somebody off the pedestal? And so it's because of the conditioning, but it's not because you've conditioned it. It's that you've conditioned it with beliefs that will keep you from getting it. Does that make sense? You're always going to be conditioning everything, right? I'm looking at a tree right now. I've just conditioned it, right? Because I'm looking at it and I'm saying it's a tree. Okay. So I've actually conditioned it, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you want to use that as an opportunity to dissolve any of those limiting beliefs, right? And that's just part of the process, right? And that's what the artisan does, right? So that's what the artisan does, right? So the artisan is like, okay, I'm going to add this color. I'm going to not add this color, right? So it's like I was sharing earlier, right? It's a letting go and a picking up. It's a letting go and a picking up. So, Neville says it's ignoring what you don't want, but then it's using your feelings and emotions to build out the picture of life that you want, right? So again, it's letting go, picking up, letting go, picking up, but it's a morning, noon, and night process until you die. Like, I mean, even I may not agree with her in everything, but Esther Hicks talks about that as well. Like, you're doing this until you croak, according to her, right? And so, and I actually agree with that. Like, you know, that's why I always encourage people to like take a belief a day or take a memory a day and revise it, right? Because that's just being active. Now, the problem is people do it either way too intensively, and ironically, Neville says that's one of the reasons why people fail at their manifestations. But when I say that they're doing it too intensely, I'm not talking about his technique of intensification, right? I'm saying that they're hyper focusing on not being the person without the old memory. They're trying to get rid of the old memory. So do you hear the difference? So like intensely focusing on what happened and trying to fight against it, rather than saying, okay, this is the memory I have, that's the person I've become now. Okay, how do I live from this person without that memory? Because really, if you were to functionally take away like his word for revision, it would just be unlearning. How am I unlearning, right, being that who I thought I was over here, to now how am I learning? Then that's why Neville says this is all about education. This world is a school. But school for what? A school for awakening, a school for imagining, right? That's what it is, right? Yeah, so again, and I mean, I actually do see it as a spectrum. I see pretty much everything in his work and his take on the law, because again, there's many other good takes on the law. I like Alan Watts. I like other people's, you know, I actually like some of Esther Hicks stuff, you know, but I like his mostly, right? I mean, for me, like I'm always deconstructing what he's saying and how he's saying it. And, you know, I'm looking at the different levels, because everything to me is always levels. And I mean, mainly that's probably because of my training in the Kabbalah for like 3 years. But so we're always looking at the depth. We're always looking for deeper, right? And so, you know, everything to me is on some sort of spectrum. Everything, a belief, a word, an idea, concept. And so for me, for Neville's work, it's always on a spectrum. And it's always layered. There's never like his idea of persistence, his idea of self-concept. Like for me, self-concept is 3 things. It's never one thing, right? And people are like, oh, you're overcomplicating it. No, I think I'm actually undercomplicating it, because the problem is that people look at these concepts and they think, oh, this is just what self-concept is. And then they're 20 years later saying, why am I still manifesting the same stuff? Because you're not going deep, right? I mean, even scripture says, as deep calls to deep. There's a calling that's happening, right? And so that's where I think, and so for me, my desire isn't to be some sort of basic YouTube channel manifestation. To me, there's way too many of those. So for me, it's more advanced. Like, how can we take this deeper to the next level, right? And a lot of that is psychological. So that's why, even as a psychologist, I'm like, okay, well, how do we take this to the deeper level? And that means you may have to go to therapy. That means you may have to go, you know, find some sort of practice that you need to replace with your current addictions of beliefs or current addictions of 3-dimensional addictions. It doesn't matter what it is, right? But that you look at this as a process, and that being in and of itself, or the awakening to who you are, is the process, is part of the process of becoming. But it's active, and that's what an artisan is. It's somebody who's active. You're constantly active. You're never not active. And so, but people hear that and they're like, oh, I'm exhausted. I don't want to do this anymore. Well, you're doing it wrong, because if you think about this and you're like, oh, I've got to muster up so much energy and I've got to do this. No, maybe in the beginning, maybe because you're training your brain to be used in a very different way that you've been taught that your brain operates. And I get that. So maybe in the first 6 months, maybe first year, it's going to feel like, wow, I'm like running up a treadmill all the time. I get it, right? But stick with it, okay? Because you are training your brain to be used in a very different way that you've been taught how the brain works. And, you know, neuroscience is looking at it from one perspective, whereas the mystical authors are seeing it from a different perspective, right? And so, you know, a lot of neuroscience argues that the brain is inert, not lazy, not like it's not doing anything. But when they say it's inert, what it means is a lot of these processes are just happening on their own. You don't need to do anything. Neville's calling for the opposite. He's saying everything about the brain needs to be actively processed, and you are the one who's actively processing it all the time, right? And so that's very different, because when you grow up and you learn in school that the brain is this kind of object that's just kind of doing its own thing and you don't have to do anything with it, and then now you learn this esoteric, mystical concept that actually the brain or the mind or the imagination is what's creating, then you full on, like if your conditioning of understanding the mind has been programmed for 20 years, guess what? And this is, even Abdullah, his mentor, said, some of this stuff is not gonna happen overnight. And so a lot of people think of manifestation because they're like, I want my house tomorrow, I got it, right? And then they predicate or they assume, by the way, I'm not saying you can't get to that point. I want you to get to that point. I want to get to that point, right? But you have to understand that to get to that point, for some people, the programming might not be, if it took them 20 years to get to this point, it might not take 2 weeks. You get what I'm saying? So like, we have to be okay with this as a process. And it's something that we invest in, meaning our time, our energy, our emotions. And so, you know, for me, and I actually, I'm doing a workshop with my clients in the Discord, eventually a paid one. And we're using the Notion app. And I'm gonna show you what I do with my own practice. Because basically what you gotta do is you gotta create a daily practice. And you don't have to use Notion, you can use any note-taking app, but Notion looks better. That's just my personal opinion. And so, right, and so you're actively creating, this is what I want in my life, in this area of life, in my area of life, this is what I'm going to be doing, and here's my affirmations, and here's my actions, and here are the things that I want to do. And you look at it every day and you actively participate in your life. And that's real. Honestly, if you want to take Neville's work literally, it's, you are actively part of your life, rather than, I'm just a victim, this just happened, oh my gosh, he said that and that triggered me. Okay, but listen, and I'm not trying to play people's triggering, okay? But the triggers always are an arrow. They always point to someone, right? And so you've got to get good at being aware of that and actively involved and participate in your own healing process, right? So, you know, and that's what I want for you all. I really want the best for you. So, you know, sorry that this kind of got tripped up before. And if it actually shows up again, I'll make sure that you guys have access to it. But if you're looking for coaching, science-backed, neuroscience-backed, behavioral science-backed, practical-backed, right? Everything backed. Big backed, I don't care. So get in touch. There's an email on my bio. There's also a free Discord group that some of you are already on. Thank you for being part of that. Be active in that group. You know, build some trust, build some community there. I'm still working on new content to give you guys, not only new videos, but like ebooks and all this kind of stuff. And we're gonna be we're gonna go back to the Friday workshop. So if you want, they're only $50. You get an ebook afterwards, like a workbook, like 5 to 10 pages. And we work on issues. We help you get to where you want to be. So get in touch. Much love to you all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, X, for your patience, and also for being here yet again. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and much love to you all. Manifest great things in your life. You deserve them. So I will talk to you all soon. Thank you, X. You're awesome.